Well, all you mad gamers, it's the end of the week. And it's the last episode of Shit I'll Never Play for the year. So guys, thanks for the last great 6 months. Really appreciate everything. Cheers, boys and girls.
Mad Mikeey Gaming.
Hi guys, and welcome to this year's last ever edition of the Shit I'll Probably Never Play. The show where I'll talk to you about the games that I've bought for the week, as well as just a few thoughts and everything about that. So if you like what I'm putting out here, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, let this community grow as an awesome whole. So there's not much of an actual haul this week. There's only 2 games, but what we're going to do, we're going to do a little Christmas special edition this week, just where I show off my amazing ones that I picked up this year, the ones that really stood out to me and the ones that I'm most proud of. Also, if you wouldn't mind just hanging around to the end of the show, there's a lot of thank yous that I want to give out there just to the people that have supported me over the year. It's a bit of a long list, but hopefully we'll get through it in a timely manner. On to the first game of the week. It's actually a game that maybe some of us never thought was going to come out. That is The Last Guardian. Now, it's actually amazing that in the last week, 2 games that have been in development hell for quite a long time have actually finally come out. This and Final Fantasy 15. Now, I remember back in the day when I just moved into this house, we actually had a birthday party for me, and a lot of my friends all just chipped in and bought us a PlayStation 2. It was only a second-hand one, but it worked, and one of the games they got me was Shadow of the Colossus. So for that what happened for that whole weekend was we actually played through that game, and it was such an amazing game. I actually went back and I got like the Eco and the Shadow of the Colossus versions on the PlayStation 3 eventually. But when this one got announced, it came out with such hype, and we waited so long for it, and now it's finally out. We finally get to play it. It looks absolutely stunning on the PS4 Pro in the HDR settings, but it's definitely a game that I'm looking forward to getting into, even though this big dog bird is a bit of a hard ass to walk around. And the last one was actually inspired by another fellow YouTuber, Ageo. It's actually Fear. Now, Fear, I've actually have on the PlayStation, on the PC. It's actually a game that I remembered playing, and it scared the absolute bejesus out of me. Alma in this game, the young lady on the cover, is probably the scariest little girl you will ever see. So I picked this one up for just a couple of dollars. It's a first-person shooting game. Never really got that far on the PC, but Ageo's been doing a let's play on it. He just basically plays the games that he wants to play, which is really awesome. He's having a lot of fun with it from what I can tell, and hopefully we're going to look at doing some collaborations in the near future, because he's actually really good at a lot of editing and whatnot. But I'm really interested to see how this series goes, because it obviously starts off as a horror game, but then it sort of blows up, and I'm actually interested to see. So hopefully in the new year, we'll be picking up some more of these. And now on to the creme de la creme. The best ones, in my opinion, that I've actually picked up this year. Now, they might not be anything special or anything like that, but they probably mean a lot to me. So the first one I picked up, I actually bought for a friend a while ago before I actually had a Nintendo 64. I was actually in a shop, and it's a game that we always talk about. And that game is WWF No Mercy. Now, this is probably one of the most definitive wrestling games you will ever play. The problem with this game was that back when it got released, there was a bug. And back in those days, there was no internet consoles. So you couldn't just download a day one patch or get a patch later on once they worked out there was a problem. No, sir. You actually had to play this game. You could win every single title. You could create so many creative wrestlers, and it would wipe it. Whether it was on the memory card or on the actual game console, it would wipe everything. It wasn't until a bit later on where they actually released a version 1.1. The way you can actually tell is just on the bottom here. I hope it focuses. It says Year 1. That is the version 1.1. That is the one that you want. So we have spent many nights playing this game, just going for titles. So basically the premise of the game is that you can go for each individual title, even the women's title back then. And depending on whether you win or lose, it branches off to a different story. It's truly probably one of the best wrestling games out there, without a lie. There's probably a couple of the PlayStation 2 games that probably come very, very close, but I've never actually played a lot of them. But this is my standard of wrestling games when it comes to it. Next one is also a cartridge. So as soon as I bought my Super Nintendo, this was an absolute must buy for me. I imported it from the UK, and I'm so happy that it is in such good nick. It is Le Prince of Persia on this. Now, this is the definitive version of the Prince of Persia. Had the best graphics, everything like that. It did have a bit of a longer time other than the original hour, but I did remember putting a lot of time into this on the PC. And when I actually read that this was the definitive one, as soon as I got the SNES, as I said, I got this one. Got it for a really good price. It was only probably about sort of $30, including postage and everything like that. I have actually put a couple of hours into this game. I haven't got that far because it's still to this day a really, really hard game. Another highlight, sort of Prince of Persia related over the year. This year I was on Twitter talking to a gentleman called Ben Matz. He was actually one of the lead designers of the Sands of Time trilogy. And in case you don't know, when the third one, The Two Thrones, came out, the original trailer was very different to the end product. So I actually tweeted him on Twitter, as you do. And I said, hey mate, what happened between that trailer and the end product? And he sort of, well, what do you mean? And I put up the trailer. He's like, oh, we can't talk about it. But I ended up having a really long chat to him about the Prince of Persia series. He's no longer with Ubisoft. He's actually doing his own things. But that was a pretty cool moment for me as being a lifelong Prince of Persia fan. Next up is a game that you're going to look at and you're going to think, oh, that's nothing special. But it's actually a game that I really love. And for collector's purposes, it's actually really special to me. And it is the game Too Human. Now, this game is based on Norse mythology. So you've got Thor, you've got Loki, you've got all those guys in it as sort of technomancer sort of people. Not so much the game because I've already got the game, but I actually bought this off of a friend and it is still sealed. Now, in case you don't know about Silicon Knights, the guys that bought you fantastic games such as Eternal Darkness, this game actually went through a lot of development problems with the Unreal Engine or the Havoc engine or whatever, and they actually had to restart, and then they sued the company that gave them the engine because it wasn't working the way they wanted it to. And long story short, they actually had to destroy these games. So to have this still in plastic, it's a real awesome collector's piece for myself. Not necessarily for anybody else, but I love this game. I will recommend it. If you've never played it, you can find it cheap. I do highly recommend getting it. It's got a few flaws, like when you die and stuff like that, but other than that, it is a really great story, great sort of loot chasing game. I can't say enough about it. Now, this one for the GameCube was a game that I didn't know existed until I sort of really started getting into my game collection, like really taking it seriously. And I was actually watching a YouTube video, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like the top 10 hardest to find or most expensive GameCube games there are out there. And they showed me this little game called Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, and it's actually a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid. So if you haven't seen in my previous videos when I've actually bought the original PlayStation 1 version, I'm a huge Metal Gear fan, probably not the biggest in the world, but it was one of the first story games that I really, really got into. I used to go to work, then talk about it at work to all the tradies that I used to work to. I had no freaking idea what I was talking about. Run home to save the world and whatnot. But then when I found out that they remade it on one of my favorite consoles of all time, the GameCube, I was like, yep, I've got to get it. I paid a real pretty penny on this. I think it cost me about $160. But it taught me a valuable lesson that you shouldn't sort of buy with emotion. Because as soon as I saw this, I was like, no, I've got to have it, I've got to have it, I've got to have it. racked it up on the credit card, and what do you know, I'm in trouble a couple of weeks later. But this is a fantastic game. Another memory with this, when my mum got sick with cancer, when I was looking after her, I took the GameCube over, and when she was sort of resting and whatnot, I'd just sort of play this because I figured, well, you paid $170, you better play it. But this game still holds up, and it looks amazing on the GameCube. Next up is a couple of games that I've actually already got on the Dreamcast, but these games were really hard to find, and based on my lessons learned from the Metal Gear Solid, I waited and I waited and I waited, and I'm so glad I waited. But I got, in case you probably would have seen this a couple of weeks ago, the Resident Evil 2 and 3 on the GameCube. I got these both for about 40 a piece, which I was absolutely rapt at doing because they'd been charging ridiculous prices like $70, $80. And being the fact that I'd already paid those ridiculous prices for the Dreamcast versions, I really wanted to get this. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I'm a huge horror fan. So horror plus games equals happy, mad Mikey. You can't say enough about these games. These defined a lot of things. Obviously, Resident Evil went off a bit of the beaten path over the last few years, but these are definitely classics. And I haven't chucked them in, but it's actually amazing that they fit both these games onto one of their mini discs. So I will play these one day, probably after I play them on the Dreamcast, because in my opinion, the Dreamcast with its connection, the PC connection, looks absolutely stunning and will hold up to games even Xbox, PlayStation 360 PlayStation 3 games. And another one of the horror games. Now, this was the first one that I sort of read about in magazines, and I was really looking forward to. I went to the store every day, just hoping that it would come out early. I was pretty pathetic back in those days. But it is Silent Hill on the PlayStation. To this day, I am scared in hospitals going in there because I just hear that play the Silent Hill music in the background, just freaking me out. Like, it doesn't hold up really well. Like the ash that sort of falls out of the sky looks like really big squares on screens. But funny story, you can actually play these all on your PlayStation 3. Any PlayStation 1 game, playable on your PlayStation 3. Thanks, Fossey. You taught me a very valuable life lesson there. But I actually picked this up off a woman. She didn't really want to sell it, but she had to. I don't know what her financial problems were or if there was any. I didn't ask, but I'd let her rest assured. I said, look, this is one of my favorite gaming memories, so I'm not a reseller or anything, so this is going to a good home, and she was more than happy to sort of help us out with that one. Now, when I started sort of really getting into collecting video games was back in sort of May this year, where I saw a Dreamcast for sale on Gumtree for a very reasonable price. And actually, the guy that I bought it off of, we've become sort of very good friends. We chat a lot online and whatnot. And so I bought the Dreamcast, and obviously the first game that I wanted to buy was the Shenmues. Now, these did cost me a pretty penny. I'm not going to lie. $100, I think this was $110, and this one in the box cost $120. But money well spent. These games were well ahead of their time. A lot of people will argue and say, nah, that's shit. I absolutely love this game. The only thing that the small annoyance that I have is that the Dreamcast version of Shenmue 1 was in English, and you could actually transfer your save on the memory card and play onto number 2. But number 2 was actually in Japanese, or whatever language it was. But that was mainly because the Xbox, when that came out, I think they signed an agreement with them, so they actually had the English version for Europe and America, but they also, for the Dreamcast only, it was in Japanese. So I'm actually still playing through this at the moment. Again, with the VGA cables, these games look absolutely stunning. I really hope they make a remake, and I'm really looking forward to Shenmue 3 since the announcement at E3 a couple of years ago when they made it a Kickstarter. I've really got to get onto that Slacker backer so that I can probably get something a bit more collectible out of it. And the last one, I had an opportunity to buy this twice First time was at an EB Games. It was really cheap, but it was on PlayStation 3 and I didn't want it on the PlayStation 3. Just the PlayStation 3 to me wasn't as good as the Xbox 360. Just the install times and whatnot. Like it was like gigabyte patches compared to megabyte patches on the Xbox. And then I saw it at JB and again, it was a reasonable price, but I was like, I've already got them, so there's no point. And it's actually the Assassin's Creed Anthology. This actually came wrapped in plastic, but I couldn't help myself. I had to open it. I'm actually a bit disappointed in the fact that it's actually got the classics discs in there, but it comes with Assassin's Creed 1, it comes with the Ezio Auditore trilogy and Assassin's Creed 3 with all the DLCs. It's got some lintographs and a few extra collector's editions things on there. But Assassin's Creed, one of my favorite series of all time, and I was actually really glad to get this. I was just fortunate that it was that point where I had a bit of cash. It ended up costing me about $170, but it was brand new. It's wrapped, and I was wrapped, to be honest. But that's it for this show. As I said at the beginning, I just want to say a few thank yous to a lot of people. Firstly, I want to say thank you to my wife for putting up with my crazy shit that I do every week, all the money that I spend. She acts like she hates it and she doesn't care, but when friends come over, she's always the first one to brag about, oh, he's got this, he's got that. Oh, show them this, Michael, show them that. So, honey, I love you. You put up with it and you're letting me have a game room. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I've got a bit of a list, so please bear with me. So, I mean, this is the 86th video that I've got. I've had actually 2,385 views. So without all my viewers, I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. So I'll try to give credit where credit's due, but I've got to go through this quickly because this video is going to go for a long time. To a couple of my work friends, George and Nathan. George, you've been there since I started, even on that little app called Anchor where that was just voiceovers. You're always there to give me a lot of great feedback, and I really appreciate the chats that we have every day. And Nathan, who's just sort of just come in, he knows his stuff about audio and stuff like that. He's just started watching a lot of the stuff. We've been talking, bouncing ideas off of each other. He's thinking about getting a YouTube channel and whatnot. So he's been giving a lot of great feedback, and he's always commenting on the new videos and whatnot. So I really appreciate that new friendship there. To my friend Beck, who's been there since the start. She's always engaging or trying to engage people over on the Facebook page and everything like that. So, and she's always one of the first people that I'll go to and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? We sometimes don't always see eye to eye, which you'll probably see in some of the comments and whatnot, but at the end of the day, we're always there for each other. We hang out at the PAX and everything like that. And to my awesome brother-in-law, Louis, he has been there since the Connect days, watching just the crazy effects that I was trying to do and just me starting out. He always sort of gave me a lot of fantastic advice on what direction I should go in and what I should do. Should I cut it down? You should get off of the Connect. You should use your iPhone. And what do you know? What am I doing today? A lot of people have obviously said get a microphone, but he's always one of the first guys there to sort of say, hey, great video, this and that. And he's always sort of, whenever we go over, we have a good chat about it and everything. When there's probably more important things to talk about. Also got my good friend Steve, who I've known longer than I've known my wife. He's just always there to chat about stuff, gaming, problems. I'll be like, hey, can you check out this video? Just see if it's any good. And he actually he takes photos when he's over for the videos and everything like that. So he's always one of my really good friends that I talk to. So thank you so much, Steve. The enabler, Mark Voss, who gives me a lot of fantastic deals on stuff. He's always, just as he's about to sort of post some stuff for sale, he'll be like, hey, have a look. Oh, do you need me to hold on? You don't have enough money? I'll hold on to it. And I'll be like, nah, just sell it. If you need the money, he's like, nah, it's yours. Just get me the money when you can. So I really appreciate that friendship that's blossomed. We talk about a lot of things with each other. So thanks, enabler. And to a guy, not many people of you may know, but Jiggsy, he actually used to work as a community manager over at EA. he's really a bit of an inspiration to me because he's now sort of in the gaming industry and whatnot, and he actually started off in banking where I am now, and sort of spoke about how that could influence. I actually found him at PAX, and he's always been there on social media for a chat. Like, just be random Friday night, I'll say to him, "Hey Jiggsy, look, I've just put this out. I'm not sure how it is," and things like that. And he will actually take the time to watch it and give a lot of feedback. So Jiggsy, I've said it to you before, mate. You're a top bloke and a real inspiration to me. So the guys over at Press Start, so Ewan and Jake and Shannon and everybody, you guys are amazing. You guys help me with a lot of things. You're always worth a really good laugh. I mean, the fact that you guys hung around after your PAX panel just to have a chat to me for sort of 5-10 minutes meant the world to me. And just you guys inspire me and give me a plateau to get to. I might not get there, I might get there, but you guys are always there for a good laugh. You're top blokes. Mean it from the bottom of my heart. Some of my highlights are chatting to you guys every day. Also, the cosplayers who have actually appeared on a couple of my other shows. So we've got Jessica Rose, who was one of the first ones. She took the time to chat to me and things like that. Not many of them sort of respond. Like, I want to be respectful and sort of just say, hey, I've got a YouTube channel. I was wondering if I could just put up a couple of pictures of you guys just to advertise Australian cosplayers. She took the time, she chatted, and she'll, like, obviously these people have got their own lives, so they can't chat all the time. But whenever she gets a chance, she'll have a quick little laugh with me and things like that. Also, there's Banshee and Chrissy Cosplay. They were a couple of the first ones on board. They're really cool cosplayers. As I said, if you're not behind the cosplay industry here in Australia, you guys are definitely missing out. There's so many talented people out there, and they're always up for a great chat. But probably your Liz, she is probably one of the most free-spirited, funny as hell people, crazy, nuts, got time for everybody kind of person that you'll ever meet. I remember the first time I actually saw her, and it was at an EB game store where she works. And I just saw her with a lot of people sort of chatting around. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what that means. But she could get along with a friggin' snail walking across the road. I went into EB Games and she'd featured on one of my shows, and she just sort of looked at me and she's like, "Are you Mikeey?" And I'm like, oh my God, she knows me. And I said, yeah. And she's like, run around, give us a hug. And we chatted, and we sort of chat on social media all the time. I consider her a mate. She's a top person. All these people I'm going to link below. I do really recommend that you guys follow them because they're great value and they've always got time for all their fans. Also, just on the Facebook side of things, the Cranksman and Old Mate Bowser. I met these guys through a group that Old Mate Bowser sort of put together. It's called the Australian YouTubers Australia, where we don't just sort of dump our videos there and sort of hope that we get a couple of extra views. We're actually there to help each other. The Cranksman, my God, they've been amazing. They made my logo for the channel and everything like that. They just came out of nowhere and said, hey, we really like what you do. We want to help. We'll do this. Give us a couple of ideas. And within sort of a couple of hours, they'd made up the logo as it is. So those guys are always helpful, and they're always up for a chat about how to improve and what to improve and things like that. And couldn't have done it with Old Mate Bowser. He's a really awesome bloke. He made me one of the mods there. So we're really trying to build a community where we're not so much trying to push our stuff. We're trying to put our stuff on there and get feedback so that we can actually improve ourselves. To my mate Scarlet Spidey, who also cosplayed on one of the shows, he's always good value, and he's even offered to help me with a bit of cosplay. So I met him through work, and I'm really glad that happened. McBeasy, my brother from the US of A, he's also one of the people that knew me from Anchor. We sort of developed a friendship from there, and one drunken night I've called him on Messenger and just had a chat to him. We've been really good buddies since then. We're always talking and bouncing ideas off of each other. He's promoted me countless times when he hasn't had to. So I'm very appreciative to have actually met that guy. We've also just got a couple more. So we've got Agio. I spoke about him earlier with the Fear game. He's a really nice bloke. He has his ups and his downs, but he's always there for a great chat. We talk about a lot of stuff. He's very positive about a lot of things, and I sort of invited him over to the YouTube Australia. He didn't know shit like that existed, so he's really fit in there. And as I said, we're probably looking at doing a collaboration sometime soon. Also, Zero Suit Sonia, who's a cosplayer who I met, who you guys may have heard me talking about. Just the fact that she remembered me once really brightened up my day, and she's just another one of those really fun-loving people who you can get along with. She responds to her fans, she'll chat, and through her I actually met Lily Unsub, who's helped me with a lot of audio. She's like, if you need any help or ideas or what's a good thing, she's actually a music producer, so she gave me a lot of hints and tips on microphones and ideas for later down the track as my YouTube channel grows, and she's really fun to get along with. Max Gaming Power Norway. I actually met this guy on Instagram. Just liked a lot of his pictures. He started following me. He's in the essence like Anakin from episode 1, just where they sort of say that he gives without thought of reward. This guy will just screenshot and put out there, and he's like, let's help Mad Mikey get to 100. And this and that, and he's always up for a good chat. He's as passionate about retro games and whatnot, him and his girlfriend, as me. There's no language barrier. He's really fantastic to chat to. So if you do get a chance, go check him out, because he's got a lot of good stuff on there. And to the original guy, Tim, he's the one that sold me the Dreamcast. What happened there was he sold me the Dreamcast, and he actually introduced me to a lot of the Facebook groups where they sell a lot of the retro games, and sort of gave me a lot of hints and tips on how to buy and things like that. And if there's any information I need about a retro game, he's always really quick to answer and to help out. If there's ever a game I'm looking for, he's always the first one to say, hey, look, if I see it, I'll pick it up for you, things like that. So he's a really awesome guy. And lastly, Australian Retro Gamer. Australian Retro Gamer, like, so for when I got my Dreamcast, he's helped me with a lot of things. Like, he told me about the VGA cable, how to get things working, if I have any problems with any of the consoles or the games. He's always the first one to sort of just tweet at him. He's very well renowned and all this stuff. So if you're into your retro games, make sure you follow this guy. But that's it, guys. I hope you stayed back here. Sorry it went a bit long and off topic, but being the last one, I just wanted to give a bit of thanks to everybody that has been part of this journey. So guys, until next year, I'll still be doing all my other shows, but just for Shit I'll Never Play, as I said, the wallet is closed. If this is the only show that you watch, I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a safe and Happy New Year. And bye, guys.